I want you to imagine a sales team that never sleeps, operates 24/7, and is able to book new meetings for you and your team relentlessly. Well, in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how you can build your own AI cold caller that delivers real results without any coding skills, and is one of the many voice AI services we regularly use for our clients to get them new booked meetings. You'll actually discover in this video whether this technology can actually replace your sales team or if it's just another overhyped tool. And by the end, you'll have an extremely clear roadmap of how to implement your own 24/7 AI cold caller with zero technical background whatsoever. So without further ado, I'm Ali Mohammed. Let's get straight into the video. Let's go ahead and call this agent and see what happens. So let's go blank slate. And what should happen is if we click run once, awesome, we're getting a phone call, so we can answer this. Hello, who is this?
Reaching back to us. I'm your intelligent voice assistant here to help with your insurance needs. I wanted to ask you one quick question. It'll only take 1 minute. Do you mind?
Yeah, sure. What is it?
Great. I just wanted to ask, when was the last time you reviewed your insurance?
It was quite recently, so I'm not interested. Thank you. Goodbye. Beautiful. And then what I'm going to do is going to do that. And then hopefully we're going to add a sleeper module. So this sleeper module is just so Vappy can finalize that call. And so when we make the call request to actually get the call details, it gives us the end of call data. Beautiful. And now it's going through the OpenAI completion prompt. So this is the transcript that it is analyzing. And this is the summary that it gave us. It's actually a pretty decent summary. So hopefully this OpenAI agent actually gives us something useful. And it gave us cold, which is exactly what we wanted. And then that got routed up into here. And if we go back to the Airtable, we can see the outcome is cold. So before we actually get started, I wanted to quickly emphasize for anyone who doesn't really understand, what is an AI cold caller? And it can be a few things. So number one, Vappy is going to be our core phone calling software to actually make these phone calls. And I'm going to show you what that looks like in a second if you've never seen it before. But there's a few different reasons why you may want to have a cold caller in the first place. Number one is you have hundreds, if not thousands of phone numbers that you don't have the time to manually call up, keep that same energy, and turn them into booked meetings. And you shouldn't. That's why in this video, I'm going to show you how to create a AI cold caller that can call leads 24/7. It's perfectly tailored to your company brand / tone of voice, can book meetings using AI to analyze the cold / warm leads. And it's all done without you having to lift a single finger. Now, one thing I really want to emphasize in this video is if you're looking to build out these own voice systems for yourself, and if you can't full screen this video, if you can't sit through this entire video and take what I've taught you and apply it, you're not going to make it very far. So please turn off the comments and put this in full screen and focus, because this technology is going to rapidly change how sales and how outbound calling is going to work forever. And one other thing I really wanted to mention is obviously legal regulations. For the love of God, do not go out and do this without obviously checking your own jurisdiction. Do this at your own risk. Obviously, make sure you are compliant with AI cold calling regulations within your jurisdiction. This video is purely educational / entertainment purposes only, and only do this at a commercial scale if you are experienced and understand, obviously, your governing laws. So without further ado, I am not held liable for anyone who builds a system and gets put in jail because of this. So please, for the love of God, do not do this if you don't feel very experienced and you don't know what you're doing. We know what we're doing. We've done it for months now, but you don't. So please just take what I say here and apply it for building your own skills. So first of all, we're going to start off with a very basic Airtable template. And you can obviously use Airtable, Excel spreadsheet, doesn't really matter, but I like Airtable because it's super colorful and it's way easier for me to distinguish the cold and warm leads. So we're going to go ahead into Airtable. If you've never made an account before, please do make one. You can go into the bottom left here, it says create, and you can click create. Now, I like to just do from scratch because this is going to be fully custom. And what we can do here is we have name, notes, assignee, and status. We're going to get rid of assignee. We don't need assignee. And we're going to get rid of notes. We don't need notes. We're going to keep status. We're going to keep name. But also another thing I want to add is the dates. So the date that we're actually calling these people. Now, I like to usually put it as just local. I think local is fine as well. Include time. Very important. I like to put this at the very front, if it'll let me. There's primary field. Next, we want to add a phone number, right? Because we're going to be calling these leads. We're going to need a phone number slot to actually do that. So we're going to create a phone number slot. I like to put this here. The name actually is not that important. We don't really care about their names. We're just looking for the phone number and looking for the status of the call. Next, what we can do is fit this status field. So this status field already comes with pre-filled qualifications like to do and progress done. This doesn't really benefit us for the most part. We can actually change these, and I like to do cold for they were able to interact with us, but they lost interest or didn't seem that interested. Unqualified, which is they just weren't qualified to begin with. They're just asking gibberish in the call. Warm, which is they have interest in our services, but they're not fully sold yet, which is perfectly fine. And then hot, so they are super interested in what we have to offer and they want to book a call with us. And we can obviously change these colors, but I think this color scheme works quite well for what we're doing here. So default option, we don't have a default option. We're going to use AI to actually analyze the transcripts and the call data to determine which one of these 4 status fields that particular phone call deserves. So we're going to click save, and we're going to leave this as is for now. So once again, we have the date, the phone number, the status. And actually what we want to do is probably put another field. We want to put outcome. And actually what I should do, I'm going to change this. So status, this should actually be outcome. And then we want to create a status field for where they are in the pipeline. So this is going to be a single select. And there's a few things we want to do here. So number one, we want to make this not called. So we can actually filter each of these phone numbers based on their current call status. And the way I like to do this is, first of all, we're going to have not called, we're going to have called, and we're going to have voicemail. We're going to start off with these 3 for now. And actually what I might do, I'm going to change this one and change that to that. And then we'll just move that like that. And then the default option is obviously going to be not called, so that when you put a phone number in, it's very clear that we haven't actually called them yet. So we're going to click create field, and we're going to start off with this template to begin with. And now we can actually move over to make.com where we can build out this system. Beautiful. So I've actually gone ahead and renamed this to AI Cold Caller 2403, which is the time I'm recording. And then we actually called the table lead list. And it's kind of like Excel, right? This is the name of your Excel file. This is the name of your sheet or table. Next, we want to go onto make.com, and you need to create your own account for make.com, and you'll be presented with a screen like this. We want to go into scenarios, and we want to click create a new scenario. And what this pretty much is it's just your own template for creating an AI automation. So what we're going to do is, logically, what we're trying to do here is we're trying to initialize a phone call to all of the phone numbers that haven't been called yet. So what we can do, we can call this AI Cold Caller Initializer. And in this video, there's going to be about 3 to 4 different scenarios that we're going to be dealing with. So it's very important that we call these appropriately. So our first module is going to be an Airtable module where we're going to be searching for all the records that haven't been called yet. And if you recall from pretty much the AI Cold Caller, these fields are going to be pretty much statused with not call. So for this example, we'll just put in a fake phone number. And this is going to have a not called status, which when we connect our Airtable to our base, what we're going to do is table lead list. So that is the exact same table as this. So we're going to sort the phone numbers in descending order. And what that pretty much means is we're just going to go through these phone numbers one by one, top to bottom. Then for the output fields, we're only looking for the phone number. So when we search this Airtable row, we only want to grab the phone number. And the formula for this, so there's a particular formula that we need to use in order to grab the correct phone numbers. And pretty much what we can do here is we can type in, I believe should be this, and then curly bracket. We can do called, which in this case is, it's status. So we want to do status calls, not called. And what this is going to do is these curly brackets indicate the name of the column, and then this represents the actual field in this column. So what's going to happen, and then we can change that, we can keep this at 10. So this will always give us 10 results. And what's going to happen if we run this is we get returned the phone number, which we had in the Airtable because it wasn't called to begin with. So what we can do with this information, quite simply, is there's a few things. Now, obviously, let's say we have more phone numbers, and obviously they're going to be not called. We can do this one. This is going to be not called. There's a few things we can do here. So if I run this again, this should give me 3 results. And these are considered bundles. So these are its own different collections, and we need to actually separate these collections. So what we do is we can use a flow control, and we can get an iterator. And what this iterator is going to do, it's going to grab pretty much all the bundles. So we can do total number of bundles, and we want it to split into, well, pretty much its own bundles. So what we can do is run this Airtable module, and now it gives us these 3 different bundles as its own items, as opposed to it all being combined. Then what we want to do is we want to grab a flow control and array aggregate, and we want to grab the value, and I believe we want to, sorry, not value, we want the total number of bundles, and then we want the phone number, and then the ID. Actually, we don't need the ID, we just need the phone number. And the source module is going to be from this iterator. So what's going to happen here is when we run this, we can just run this module, I'm pretty sure. No, we can't. So we got to run the whole thing, run anyway. So it's going to grab all the information, and it's going to aggregate all of those different phone numbers so that we can use them. Now, what's very important is we need to make a HTTP request to Vappy. What we can do is make a request and this is very important. So we haven't actually touched on Vappy yet, which is what we need to do. So if you go into your console, your Google, and type in Vappy, you'll be prompted into the actual Vappy dashboard. So when you head over into Vappy and create your own account, you're going to be greeted with a dashboard like this. Now, my dashboard has some data, but yours obviously won't. And what you want to do is you want to come into Assistants, and you want to create your own AI assistant by simply clicking Create, and then you can choose from one of these base ones, or you can create your own. Now, I've already gone ahead and pretty much created an appointment setter / cold caller for just a basic insurance firm. No particular information is really filled out here. We don't have an agent name, we don't have a company, we don't have phone number. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this in the link in the description so you can follow along with me. And that is pretty much everything we need to do. Just keep this super simple, super brief. But once you have your AI agent, we want to pay particular attention to this assistant ID. And with this assistant ID, we can actually go ahead and create a phone call. So Vappy's API documentation allows us to create a phone call directly from their service via giving them a few different parameters. So first of all, we need to get an API key, which if you haven't done that already, you can go into your accounts, not your account settings. So they change this every 5 days. I have to figure out where they have it. Beautiful. So if you go into origination settings and go into the API keys, you can copy or create a new API key, and then we can use that inside of Vappy to pretty much test it and see if this works. So I've gone ahead and put in my API key, and now what we can do is we have some certain body parameters that we want to send it. So obviously, if we're going to be making a phone call, we need a few key parameters to make sure that we're making a phone call from the correct agent. So we're going to need the assistant ID. We're going to need the phone number ID. In this case, we can just do phone number. And you can see here it says Twilio. So it also says deprecated. That is interesting. It says deprecated. Wow, they change this quite frequently. Let's actually have a look at the other options. So there is phone number ID. It might just be the phone number ID. Let's do that. So we have the assistant ID and we have the phone number ID. And what we can do is go back into Vappy, and if you haven't already, you can pretty much get a phone number. And you can either do this 2 ways. You can buy the phone number, or you can go into Twilio, which if you haven't seen already, Twilio, and create an account, buy your own phone number, and we can use that to consider and go forward. So once you've done that, we can go back into here, and we can grab that assistant ID from the assistance page, copy assistant ID, you can chuck that into here. Phone number ID. So you want to go into your phone numbers and grab the phone number ID. Next, we actually need to get this agent to call our number. So right now we've configured the agent to call from the assistant, that specific phone number, but we need to figure out a way to actually make it call someone. So we can go here into phone number objects, or not phone number objects, sorry. What we need is customer. We want customer, which is the person that's going to be called. And you can see here we have additional properties. And the additional property we want is number. Number E164 check enabled. No, we want number. And this time we can basically just put in a fake phone number. In this case, I'm just going to do my phone number. And we can test this agent directly and actually send a request and see if it works. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to send a request, and fingers crossed this works, and we should be able to see that I get a phone number. I get a phone call from this number, which is the number that is connected to my Vappy account. And this is a great way to test your API requests before you actually fill them out in make.com or N8N. So we can see status 201 success. Excellent. So what we can do is head back into make.com and we can set the URL. So in this case, the URL is HTTPS API Vappy call. Click that, put into the URL. This is a post request. And the way we know that is because it says post right here. Next, we can add our headers. So there are 2 headers that this API request requires, and you can determine that from the H on the side here. There's authorization, and then that key value is bearer, API key, and there's content type, application/JSON. So what this would look like if you're doing this for the first time is authorization, and then you would put bearer, and then your API key. And then for the second one, it was content type. And by the way, these are case sensitive, so make sure you are doing that accordingly. And we can go application/JSON, right? That is perfectly done. And then this D represents the data. So this data is going to be sent in our body request. So we don't have any query string parameters. We do have a body type. This body type is going to be raw, and it's going to be in JSON format. And then we can put in the requested content directly into here. So what we can do is we can grab this, I think. Can we grab it? Okay, we can just copy the whole thing and then just put in here. So what we can do is get rid of this, get rid of that value, and then put this as so. I think we can just leave it like that and it should be good. Actually, we might want to keep this one again. Now we're going to need to change a few things here. The assistant ID is a constant value, so that can stay the same. The phone number ID is a constant value. However, the customer number is going to be a unique value. So we can go into the flow control array and grab the phone number and simply just put that in the middle here. So if I actually make a request using this, it will call my phone number, and we can test that directly right now. Something that is super important as well, I've gone ahead and actually renamed these, is anytime you're making a web request or an external request to a third-party software such as Airtable or a HTTP request to Vappy, it's very important you actually add break modules in case something goes wrong and you don't want your system to basically continue failing if you're running this for production. So what a break module does is this is the maximum number of attempts allowed for an execution to be tried and completed automatically. If they fail, the execution would have to be completed manually. So basically what this does is if something goes wrong with your system and there's an error, this break module will pretty much allow the error to occur 3 times. And if that error continues, it'll just stop the whole production process so you're not wasting time and money. So if we can basically just do that for both of these, we can add the break module. Beautiful. And then we need to save these as so. And then what we can do is we can actually test this. So fingers crossed this works. I need to go back into Airtable and and delete all these selected leads. And then we can just put in phone number. So we can go plus +6140994289. And then what we can do is we can test this. So let's see how this works. We can go requires storing of incomplete information. Beautiful. I think awesome. So with this break module, quickly, what we need to do is, it's not even the break module. I think it's like the scenario settings. So in the scenario settings in the bottom here, quickly before we even begin, is we can enable, I think it's allow storing of incomplete executions and turn that one on. One of the biggest issues that I had with this system when I first started is I would have it run automatically, and obviously this is testing purposes, so it would be with my phone number or a friend's phone number, but I would forget to update my Airtable column to cold. And this system would continuously loop because it's always searching for the phone numbers that haven't been called. And when you don't update the status field after you've made the call, it can do some things. So what we want to do is we want to add an Airtable module, which updates a record. Choose our account, so our Airtable. And it looks like we need to authorize this Airtable node again. So once again, we're just going to go here, grant access to all of our bases and future bases inside of our workspace. Once that is done, beautiful. Now what we can do is link this to our AI cold caller base. Then we can link it to our lead list table. Next, we want to grab the record ID. So this record ID actually comes from this Airtable module. But real quickly, we need to actually grab the Airtable record from the array aggregator, because this is only going to grab the record for the very first phone number. So you can imagine if we have multiple phone numbers and we try and grab the record ID from just this Airtable module, it's only going to grab the very first record ID that's not specific to the phone number. And that's why this iterator and aggregator is so important, is because it grabs those 10 results and splits them. So what we need to do is, this is fine. We need to go into our array aggregator and we need to go phone number and ID. So once we do that, we can actually test this, I think. So let's just add in a bunch of fake phone numbers. Beautiful. And then what we can do, and just because I don't want it to call me again, I can just do this. Click run once, click save anyway, run once. We can't run it because we got to freaking put this in. So I'm just going to do that, save, beautiful. Let's go ahead and done that. Cool. So obviously it didn't work because, well, those phone numbers don't actually exist, but that's perfectly fine. This record ID, we can go into our flow control and grab the record ID for that specific phone number and chuck that inside of here. Now we can update our Airtable field based on that specific record. And what we want to do is we can update the date. So the date module, we can go up here. I can grab the now time and put that there. We can also go to the status and we can actually map the status. So we can change this to called, and you'll see later in this video, I want to change this and you'll see why in a second. So inside of our status field, we want to add another one, which is called number. And I like to do called number, which basically tells me that, hey, we've called this number, and you'll see why I do this in a second. So if can I refresh this? Is that possible? How do I refresh? I got to refresh like this. So if we refresh this, what's going to happen is we're going to grab the record ID from our flow control, just put that into there. Date stays the same. The called status, we're going to do called number. And this is going to prevent the module or the scenario from continuously calling the same person over and over again. And this basically tells the system that, hey, we've called this person. Let's change their field from not called to called number. So we're going to do that. And that is pretty much everything we wanted to do. And we can obviously go ahead and do a break module just like so. Without further ado, that's pretty much our AI cold caller initializer created. And we can go ahead and save this. And now the next thing we want to do is create another module, which is analyzing those outbound calls. So now that we've created the outbound calls, we need to figure out a way to analyze it and use that information to determine if the person is interested in our service. So we can call this outbound call analyzer, just like so. And what we can do here is in a webhook. And we want to do a custom webhook. And we have to create our own webhook. So you're going to be granted with a screen like this. And we can click add. And by the way, for anyone who doesn't know already, a webhook is just a fancy way to transfer data from one application to another. So in this case, we're transferring the call data from VAPI to this webhook. And this is our webhook URL that make.com has given us that we're going to be using. So we can click copy to address. And then what we can do is we can go back into VAPI and we can go into our assistant and we can go into the advanced settings. And inside of the advanced settings, if we go down into messaging, we can actually change the server URL. So this server URL will be used to communicate messages via HTTP post request. So we can chuck in our make.com URL into here. And now every time that a phone call has been completed by this appointment setter, that data is going to be sent directly to this make.com scenario where we can use that transcript data and actually analyze the call. So what does this actually look like in practice? Well, if I publish this and if I try making a call, what I might do is I'm going to duplicate this make.com scenario and we're going to have both of these on side by side. So I'm going to quickly call myself and then we can run the webhook in order to capture that end of call data. And real quick, let's run it. So this is going to run. Oh, sorry. I need to change this to not called. Now we can actually run once. Beautiful. Now I'm receiving a call. So hello, who is this?
I'm your insurance assistant. I wanted to ask you one quick question. It'll only take 1 minute. Do you mind?
No, I'm good. Thank you. Beautiful. So now what should happen is this webhook should trigger with all of that end call data, which it has. And we can use this data and use AI to analyze the transcript and determine, hey, is that person interested or are they not interested? Now, there's a few things that we really need to do here, and I'm going to show you what that is in a second. the first thing we need to do is grab an Airtable module. So we want to link this call data with the correct Airtable row. So what we can do is, I'm pretty sure it's search records. Is it search or is it get records? I think it's search records. So we can go base AI cold caller 2403 table is lead list. Beautiful. And then what we can do here is output fields. I don't think we need any output fields for now, but what we want to do is we want to create a formula, which is this phone number, specifically, where is it? Not that phone number, it's the customer phone number. And we want to link that to our Airtable module. And I have the formula open on the side here because these formulas hard for me to remember after I haven't done this for a while. Basically, you want to do the phone number. So this case column was called phone number. It's case sensitive. And then that is equal to the customer phone number. So what this does is it's going to filter the call information from this webhook to the relevant Airtable row. In this case, it's going to be my phone number. And then what we can do is limit. We can just do 1, to be honest. Doesn't need a limit. And then save. And then what's going to happen is we can run this module only. And then the number, actually, no, we got to run this whole thing. So what we might do is just keep this as is. Beautiful. So now that we've essentially linked the phone number to the relevant Airtable record, there's a few things that we can do. Number one, we can real quick put in a filter. And to do that, we want a router. So we need to grab a router. And then we want to add a filter. And real quick, what I might do is I'm going to add a filter here, and just in case anything goes wrong, and I might actually do this beforehand, is with this one, we want to do if call ended. And what's going to happen here is this filter is only going to pass through data when this data is returned back as an end of call status. So what we can do is status is equal to ended. So I didn't show you this, but this webhook triggers every time you start a call and every time you end a call. And it's very important that we only take the data and analyze it for the end of call, because obviously at the start of the call, there's no data to analyze. So we put in a filter here for end of call, and then we have a router. And I have this router for a few reasons. Number one, when you're making these AI cold calls to people, a lot of times these people can have do not disturb on their phones. And do not disturb can be very annoying if you're only making a call once. So what we can do is we can actually create a route to call them again and bypass do not disturb if we pretty much detect that they're on voicemail. And the way we do this is quite simple. So Vappy, I'm not quite sure how this works because it's quite new, have a brand new voicemail detection software directly integrated into their assistants. So if you go back into the advanced settings and scroll down a bit to voicemail detection, you can configure how the assistant detects and handles voicemail. So in this case, our provider is Twilio. You can choose between Twilio, Google, and OpenAI for voicemail detection. We'll probably do OpenAI. And the expected voicemail duration, so set how long the assistant should listen for a voicemail message to complete. In this case, we do about 10 seconds for voicemail, and then we'll click publish. And what's going to happen is if I try calling this agent again, but this time I have do not disturb, it's going to return back data that is voicemail data. And that's exactly what we want. So we can just leave this as is, click save anyway, go back into here, put this as not called. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my phone on do not disturb, make sure that if it does call me, it bypasses to voicemail. So we can do this, then that's an error. Let's delete that. And now hopefully, I hope I didn't miss it, but it should hopefully return back data after 10 seconds of it analyzing that we're in voicemail. Excellent. And looks like it did. So what happened is ended reason because of voicemail. And this is very important. So what we can do, and I had to delete that router because it was giving me an error, but now we can put the router back in. And there's so many modules here now. We got to take these out of the screen. What we can do is we can put a route for voicemail. So if voicemail, do the condition is if the ended reason is equal to voicemail, then we route down to this field. And this field is going to, first of all, it's going to sleep. So we're going to sleep for I usually do about 10 seconds just so we don't overwhelm and spam the person immediately. I like to do 10 seconds. And then what happens is we pretty much make a second HTTP request, like the exact same HTTP request. So we pretty much grab the phone call. So we can do this. And I'll actually fill this out for you. It's the exact same thing. Beautiful. So I've just gone ahead and copied over the same HTTP request from here. And the one thing we need to change is down in the data section for the number. You can just grab the Airtable phone number and just call them again. Next, what we want to do is we want to grab an Airtable module and update that record. And there's a few different things that we want to do. So logically speaking, we want to make sure that this AI cold caller only calls this person twice. We don't want it to call them 3 times. We don't want them to call it 4 times if they're still on voicemail. And that is super important that we are able to basically logically track this. So we can go into AI cold caller, lead list, record ID. So we can grab the exact same record ID as before. The date, we don't really need to change. The phone number, I don't think we need to change. And what we really want to do is we want to update our called twice column. So I don't actually have a column here for called twice. So what I might do is go back into Airtable. We want to create a new column called called twice. And this will basically allow the AI or make.com to realize, hey, we've called this person twice now, let's not call them again. So this can be called twice. We can make this a single select and we can just do no, and we can just do yes. I like to change these colors because it looks nice. And then the default option will always be no. So we just put that as no. Now what we can do is if we go back into Airtable and if we refresh this table, what's going to happen, and this is giving me a red, I don't know why. What we can do now is down in called twice, we can actually change this from no to yes. So once that is complete, what's going to happen is if the AI analyzes that this is voicemail, it'll route down to this path, call them again, update the record to called twice equals yes. Then what we want to do is we want to create another field. And this field is going to be if called twice, if called twice, but still in voicemail. So we've called this person twice and we've bypassed the do not disturb, but we still can't get a hold of them. And what's going to happen here is we're going to need the condition. So we're going to need the called twice condition. What we need to do, we need to actually reset this. So we need to run module. I'm just going to put in my phone number. I'm going to run this again. Beautiful. So what should happen here is if we go back to condition, we don't have the called twice. I think I need to update this field real quick. What I might do is that. Oh no, we need to output. Beautiful. So this is where we actually start outputting the data. So we want to output the phone number and call twice. So let's do that for now. Actually, we're going to output all the data because we're going to need all this data eventually. So we'll just output all the data. We'll run this module only, and then we'll just put in my phone number. Beautiful. So what's going to happen then is if we go back into here, we can actually grab this and make sure, yeah, that's all good. And then this update column is all good. Then we want to go down to here, if called twice, but still in voicemail, and the condition should be called twice, but it doesn't seem to be coming up. It's a bit weird. Beautiful. So I managed to get it working. I don't know what happened, but all I had to do was just reset this called twice column and it seemed to work perfectly fine. So now we have all of the data from the Airtable. We can go into here and we can just do if called twice, but still voicemail, and we can make the condition called twice is equal to yes. And in this case, we'll only route down to this field if the called twice column has been done twice. So in that case, what we want to do, save this. And then what we can do is we can go into Airtable, or we can update the Airtable, and we want to update the voicemail details. So we want to go into Airtable and we want to go to update record. And then we want to just link our base, and then we want to link our table. Beautiful. And now what we can do here is we can grab the record ID, and then we can go down into the status, and we can change this to voicemail. So this pretty much tells our Airtable that, hey, we tried calling this person twice and we're still left on voicemail. That's all good. So now we have those two parameters set up, which is great. Now, one thing I want to do here is add another rule, and we're going to do call twice is equal to no. So this makes sure that if the call twice field, which is no, so we go back into here, the default option should be no. If the call twice field is no, we route up here, make a second call and update it to yes. And then if the call twice field is yes, we update this record, which basically sets voicemail. So what we want to do now is quickly add this new router option, which is going to be if not voicemail. So we can go if not voicemail, and then obviously our condition is going to be ended reason is not equal to voicemail. Now, Vappy has done some funky stuff where it's pretty much not possible to grab the transcript data from the webhook. Instead, we need to make another HTTP request to actually get the call data. So what we can do is we can make a request. And one thing I want to change quickly is when we're updating these tables, so we can go into here we want to go into Airtable, and we want to, by the way, created a new column for transcript outbound, and it's just long text. This is just me testing it. We want to create another one, which is call ID. And this is going to be long text as well. We can call this call ID. And we want to update our Airtable column with the call ID from this information. So what we can do is we can go into here, and obviously there's no data right now, but what we want to do is let's quickly call myself and then get this data. So we can go, oh, this one's already filled out actually. So what I might do is go into this Airtable. Anytime there's an Airtable after a HTTP request, we want to grab the call ID of this information. So this data is given to us as raw data. And I actually can't see what this looks like. So what do we have? We have the data, system ID, type, outbound. Awesome. Sweet. So that's actually amazing how it doesn't pass the data. That might actually be because I do this. Let's pass the data. And let's try calling ourselves again. So we can go run once. Awesome. I'm just going to decline that. Sweet. So now it's passed the data. So hopefully it should give me all the relevant fields separately. So what I can do now is I can go into my Airtable. I can go into my call ID. Beautiful. And I can grab this call ID. We can put that into there. So now our Airtable will update with that call ID. And this call ID is important because we're going to need the call ID in order to make a HTTP request to VAPI. And this HTTP request is going to be getting the call. So that call ID that we had, if we want to grab it again, what we can do is go back into here, go into our call ID. We can grab our call ID. We can't grab our call ID like that. We're going to have to grab our call ID from here. So it's probably in the data. We can go call ID, copy that. Then we can go back into here and do that. We can send a request. And now what should happen is we should be able to grab the transcripts. Hopefully. That's what I'm hoping for here. Transcripts, beautiful. So now is we can take this HTTP request and put it back into here. This is going to be like that. And then we want to change this to the call ID field where this Airtable record hasn't actually updated with it yet. So what I might do is just run this module only, grab the ID, beautiful. And then what I can do here is we can delete this call ID and make this dynamic. What I need to do actually is update this field, probably. Beautiful. And then let's try to run this again. Make sure there's actually data inside of the Airtable column. And hopefully it should work. Yeah, beautiful. So we can do this and then we can dynamically add the call ID. This is going to be a GET request where we have our authorization, which is our API key. You can go bearer and then you can put in your API key. And then what should happen, by the way, this is a GET request, so we don't need to actually put in data into this body. So what should happen is we should be able to grab the call ID and analyze the transcript that way. So I'm going to quickly fill in my API key and then we'll get back to it. Beautiful. So what I've done is I've just quickly called myself again, and then I want to update this Airtable after this HTTP request with the new call ID. And one thing I forgot to do is actually pass this information. So let's quickly do that. But for the most part, we were able to grab the call ID and then put it into here. Beautiful. And make sure down in the scenario settings, you enable allow storing of incomplete executions. But without further ado, I think that's pretty much everything. So let's go ahead and call this agent and see what happens. So let's go to blank slate. And what should happen is if we click run once, awesome. We're getting a phone call, so we can answer this. Hello, hello. Who is this?
Reaching back to us. I'm your intelligent voice assistant here to help with your insurance needs. I wanted to ask you one quick question. It'll only take 1 minute. Do you mind?
Yeah, sure. What is it?
Great. I just wanted to ask, when was the last time you reviewed your insurance?
It was quite recently, so I'm not interested. Thank you. Goodbye. Beautiful. And then what I'm going to do is going to do that. And then hopefully we're going to add a sleeper module. So this sleeper module is just so VAPI can finalize that call. And so when we make the call request to actually get the call details, it gives us the end of call data. Beautiful. And now it's going through the OpenAI completion prompt. So this is the transcript that it is analyzing. And this is the summary that it gave us. It's actually a pretty decent summary. So hopefully this OpenAI agent actually gives us something useful. And it gave us cold, which is exactly what we wanted. And then that got routed up into here. And if we go back to the Airtable, we can see the outcome is cold. So that is pretty much how you create an AI cold caller that handles outbound phone calls. And obviously you can let this run every 15 minutes. And ideally what should happen is you just chuck in a bunch of phone numbers and then this AI agent will run in the background seamlessly. You can change the copy of the agent if you want to. That's completely up to you. This video is more so just a high-level breakdown of how to actually build out the skeleton of this system. But I'm glad we did that, and then we can do an auto align because it just looks nicer. And yeah, that's pretty much everything that I wanted to explain in this video. Now, obviously, like I said at the start of the video, will this replace your sales team? Depends. Probably not if you're an really experienced sales team and you can handle the volume. I think for the next year or two, that probably won't be an issue. But if you're a small business who has hundreds, if not thousands of leads that you just don't have the time to go through, I think setting up one of these systems is absolutely crucial for you to squeeze out as much revenue as possible in such a little time. Will this replace sales teams? Honestly, at how fast this technology is moving, probably yes. Probably in the next year or two. I strongly believe, to be completely honest, that this will replace sales teams in the next year or two. And to be completely honest, these systems that we built for clients, we've only had like one person recognize it's AI. And to be completely honest, like this system is great and all, but if you don't know how to build voice AI agents to begin with, if you don't know how to get the copyright, if you don't know how to configure it properly, then this isn't going to work. And that's exactly what this video here, yeah, that's exactly what this video is going to teach you and how to actually build your very first voice AI agent. So without further ado, I'm Ali Mohammed. Thank you so much, and I will see you in the next video. Take care.